probably say this a lot, but it is so cool that football has acquired a real taste for real advanced analytics, because you can learn a lot about things that you think might be true and then have them really fortified. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of the other two teams in town that I cover, the Penguins and the Pirates, and I hope you'll check those out as well. Intensive research that involved applying existing data into a useful table took the data that any of us can find on the NFL's next-gen stats page, took all of the wide receivers for all 32 teams, took all the information about how well they run their routes, took into account specifically how much separation they get from their coverage, and I'll throw into parentheses here that George Pickens is top 10 in the league in that category, and parentheses, and you'll never guess which quarterback has had to deal with the most heavily covered wide receivers through the first 4 weeks. Hint, it's Justin Fields. Second hint, he's dead last by a mile. And I don't mean him, because this is a great credit to him. I mean his wide receivers, and obviously I don't mean George, so I mean everybody else. And I'm going to say this one more time for clarity purposes. Fields' wide receivers are more closely covered. They have less separation than any other group of wide receivers in the NFL, even though George Pickens is top 10 in that same category. Now, all I have to say to this are two words. And if you've been paying attention to news around the league over the past 24 to 36 hours, you'll know what those two words are. One of them is Davante, the other one is Adams. He wants out of Las Vegas. He apparently wants out of there in a raging hurry. And what do you know? Late last night, word was leaked out of the Raiders' offices in Las Vegas that the Raiders are, in fact, open to listening to trade offers, with those trades likely to seek a second-round draft pick, an existing player of some kind, and additional compensation of some kind. And that's leaving a lot of some kinds out in the open. But I'm going to say the same thing now that I was saying all through the Brandon Ayuk stuff. And that's that this type of player is not wanted in Pittsburgh. This type of player is needed in Pittsburgh. We only thought that in the summertime. Now we know that. And if anything, these first 4 games have brought, I guess the best way to put this is upbeat evidence that you wouldn't be wasting your resources in acquiring such a player. Think about it. If Russell Wilson gets hurt, Fields goes in there and hypothetically stinks. So you see that Fields stinks, you're wondering about Wilson's health, and maybe on top of that, you're wondering if maybe, a Calvin Austin or a Van Jefferson or whoever can just rise up. You'd be at least a little bit hesitant if you're Omar Khan about giving up a fortune to bring in a veteran wide receiver. Makes sense. The patience makes sense. Not now. Not now it doesn't. Fields is a real live quarterback. Fields is QB1 and has the potential to be a really good QB1 for the foreseeable future. The wide receivers, as this research now painfully illustrates, have done the polar opposite of rising up. I do like some of the stuff that Cal did in Indianapolis. I really like the stuff Cal's doing on punt returns. But, WR3 for that. And now, on top of everything, here's Adams wanting out from the Raiders 2 weeks before the Steelers play in Las Vegas, I should add, just for amusement purposes. And you've got the Steelers sitting on this mountain of cap space because they're not currently paying a quarterback. They have 3 times a mountain in cap space going into 2025, when they will have to pay a quarterback, meaning Fields, but you'd still want him to have his targets. Fields, if you can look at this through his eyes, is dropping back, surveying the scene, and finding only one wide receiver consistently getting open. That's not sustainable. It's great that he's done it to date. It's great that he's found a way, but it's not something that's going to streak through a full 17-game schedule. It's just not. Go get this guy. Go get him now. Why does it have to be a second rounder? Give him a first rounder. It's just too good to pass up. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Odyssey, who says, DK, could you please explain what's going on with Roman Wilson from the inside? I've heard Mike Tomlin say he doesn't believe Wilson's game ready, but what does that mean? Is he not healthy, or does Tomlin not believe that Wilson fits this team for where it's currently at? You know, Tomlin does a phrase that he uses a lot, that it's difficult to get aboard a moving train. And what he means when he says that, if that's not already obvious, is that once the process has begun and all the gears are turning, the season's rolling along, the players who are out there inherently are ahead of you in just about everything. And if you look at Wilson's 2024 to date, beginning with, I guess, pretty much everything after rookie camp, he's missed a lot of football. He's missed a lot of practices. He's missed a lot of real, live experience, including with both of the Steelers quarterbacks. So the first thing I'll throw in to this mix is that, yes, Wilson's healthy. He's fine. He's ready to go in the physical sense. But he can't help you on special teams. And look, this coming right after the segment where I said the Steelers really need a lot of help at the WR2 slot is going to seem kind of contradictory, but if the Steelers coaches and quarterbacks have developed a rapport and an understanding with a Calvin Austin, with a Van Jefferson, then they're going to feel a lot better about trusting those players to do the right thing, to execute the right play, to react appropriately when things might not go well in a play or a quarter or even the entire game. They can't know that about Wilson. They just can't, because he hasn't been in these types of situations. This isn't college. This is the NFL. College is the minor leagues. And if you're playing the types of games that the Steelers have been playing, where they're pretty close and they're not necessarily getting all of the production offensively that they want, and they're already holding their collective breath over the offensive line, and they're already wondering if they have to be wondering this, if they can get more out of Najee Harris or good health for Jaylen Warren and Cordero Patterson, then I can very much understand why Tomlin, even if it's just Tomlin, wouldn't want to be introducing yet another variable into the equation. So what Wilson has to do is he has to really stand out in practices. I don't just mean making great catches on the south side. I mean showing as much of an awareness of the offense, of the quarterback's throws in practice settings as one possibly can. We'll see. I wouldn't be holding my breath. When Tomlin's speaking of someone in that tone, from my experience with him in the past, he's not going to make it easy for that kid to get in. I appreciate the question. You're not the only one to have submitted it. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.